OK, let's cross live now to West Sussex, where Sir Keir Starmer is making his first keynote speech of his campaign trail. Here we go.
Thank you all for that very warm welcome. Thank you, Tom. You'll be a fantastic candidate and an even better Member of Parliament. And thank you to all of you for coming here on a Monday, a bank holiday Monday, and it's 10 o'clock in the morning. But I suppose at least there's a bit of sun and we are by the seaside. And of course, we're in Sussex, which is a beautiful part of the world, a part I know pretty well. My sisters live in Sussex, and I've got an uncle who lived actually very close to here. And so it is a part of the world I know well. And like everyone, I imagine, my character is shaped by where I started in life. Now, I grew up in a small town, actually not a million miles from here. It's a place called Oxted, on the Surrey-Kent border. Similar to Lancing, I suppose, in some respects, although no sea. But you should go to Oxted on your way back if you get time, or when you get time. And if you do, what you will see is a place that, in my opinion, is about as English as it gets. A mix of Victorian red bricks and pebbled ash semis, while all around you've got rolling hills, pastures, and the beautiful chalk hills of the North Downs. I loved growing up there. You could make easy money clearing stones for the local farmers. That was actually my first ever job. You could play football until the cows came home, literally. My first football club was Bolthurst Athletic FC. I was very proud of this. We shared our home pitch with the local cows, which may say something about the way I play football. But not just the beauty or the football, also the sort of quiet, uncomplaining resilience, the togetherness of the countryside. That is the best of British. And to be honest, it's just as well, because you need it. I mean, anyone who thinks that hardship in Britain is found only in our cities, anyone who thinks there's no struggle outside of our cities, yes, even here in the southeast, let me tell you, they know nothing of the countryside. And in a way, my story is testament to this, because it wasn't easy for us. My dad was a toolmaker. He worked in a factory all of his life. My mum was a nurse, but for most of her life, she had a debilitating illness called Still's disease. To be honest, she would have hated being called debilitating, because she never gave up and she never complained. But her illness did shape our lives, whether that was many, many hours spent with her in high dependency units when I was a teenager, not quite knowing whether she'd pull through, or whether it was just her incredible resilience. Every time she was told she'd never be able to get up and walk again, she was single-minded in her determination. I've never seen sheer willpower like that. My mum to be told she wasn't going to walk was a challenge she was going to rise to over and over and over again. And that shaped me. And then there was the economy, because, of course, when I was growing up, this was the 1970s. And there were hard times. And I know what out-of-control inflation feels like. How the rising cost of living can make you scared of the postman coming down the path. Will he bring another bill we can't afford? And I'll tell you this, if you're working class, you're scared of debt. You're scared. My mum and dad were scared of debt. So they would choose the bill that they wouldn't pay rather than going to bed. And they chose the phone bill. They would have the phone cut off rather than pay the bill, because it was the easiest one to do without. Obviously no mobiles back then, but you could just about get by. Now, all of that, my background, has stayed with me. It shaped the plan that I've drawn up for Britain. The importance, above all, of economic stability. The need never to put working people through the whirlwind of chaos. The rising taxes, rising prices, rising mortgage costs. £5,000 for every working family. That is what the Tories have inflicted on Britain. The price working people have paid for their chaos, and it's unforgivable. But as I reflect and look forward to this election, I believe my background has also shaped my politics in a deeper way. Look, this England has always been fairly far removed from Westminster. Politics has always been something that happens far away. And yet something more profound has changed during the last 14 years of Tory government. People now feel more and more of the decisions that affect their community are taken by people who not only live miles away, but have little empathy for their challenges. A politics that is, at best, doing something to people, not with them. And at its worst, as we saw in horrifying detail in Westminster last week, those twin injustices, Horizon and infected blood scandals, is something much, much darker even than that. It's about respect, or to be precise, the lack of it. That is the canary in the mine of injustice. For a long time now, working people have believed opportunity in Britain is stacked against them. But now we're at a dangerous new point, close to crossing a Rubicon of trust, not just in politics, but in many of the institutions that are meant to serve and protect the British people. A moment where people no longer believe their values or interests carry the respect of those in power. And when you put that alongside a government that over 14 years has left living standards in this country worse than when they found them, that has torched any semblance of standards in public life, Westminster parties that broke the rules they put in place to save lives, and rules they expected you to follow, but ignored themselves, then you get a crisis in nothing less than who we are as a nation. The values that have held us together, that have driven us on through hard times towards our greatest achievements, taken to the edge by these Tories. And healing these wounds is what national renewal means. Politics has to be about service. Britain must be a country that respects your contribution. Everyone, not just those at the top, deserve the chance to get on. Now, these are the ideas that I'm fighting for. This is my project. A Britain once more in the service of working people, country first, party second. Now, I don't know if this is a new politics or whether it's simply a return to something older that used to be taken for granted. But public service is the bare minimum you should expect. And you also deserve the security, the certainty, the basic, ordinary hope that Britain will be better for your children. And I think that no matter what our struggles, we always had that back in the 1970s. My parents always believed that in the end, hard work would be rewarded and Britain would be better for their children, for me. Now, that may not sound like much to some people, but you can't underestimate how important it is for working class families like mine. How much it comforted my parents, particularly towards the end of their lives. It gave us a hope and a stability that we could build our lives around. And I believe it's what working people want now more than anything. They want to believe in the future. They want, when they say to their children, work hard and you can achieve anything, for that to feel true. But after 14 years of Tory damage to our values, the service and security they should expect as a given. They just don't believe it anymore. And that has consequence for all parties. Look, whatever the polls say, I know there are countless people who haven't decided how they'll vote in this election. They're fed up with the failure, the chaos and the division of the Tories. But they still have questions about us. Has Labour changed enough? Do I trust them with my money, our borders, our security? My answer is yes, you can, because I've changed this party permanently. This has been my driving mission since day one. I was determined to change Labour so it could serve the British people, give them a government that matches the ambition that they have for their families and their communities. And the very foundation of any good government is economic security, border security, national security. And make no mistake, if the British people give us the opportunity to serve, then this is their core test. It's always their core test. The definition of service. Can you protect this country? And I haven't worked for 4 years on this just to stop now. This is the foundation, the bedrock that our manifesto, our first steps, will be built on. And then on that foundation, with an end to the Tory chaos, we can start to rebuild our country. Step one, economic stability, the very foundation of growth, with tough spending rules that mean we can keep inflation, taxes and mortgages low. Now, I don't know about you. I am fed up of listening to the Prime Minister tell you that we've turned the corner. Turn the corner. This is a form of disrespect in itself. Taxes higher than at any time since the war. Chaos hitting every working family to the tune of £5,000. And a Prime Minister prepared to do it all over again. Now he says he wants to get rid of national insurance. That's £46 billion that is currently used on your pension and the NHS. And he's not prepared to say how he'll fund it. That means that this election, either your pension is under threat, or he's prepared to blow the economy up all over again. He hasn't learnt a thing. And working people need stability. They want things to improve. They want things to move on. They want change. But they expect you to take care of the public finances as well. Because if you lose control of the economy, it's working people who pay the price. Liz Truss lost control of the economy, and working people paid the price. A week after that mini-budget, I went to Wolverhampton, and I saw a couple. They had one child, a 3-year-old. They'd made the decision they wanted a second child. They'd found a new house that they could move into for their expanded family. They'd got a mortgage offer that they could afford. They were looking forward, the next step forward in their lives. Liz Truss crashed the economy. Their mortgage offer went through the roof. They had to pull out of the sale, stay where they were, cancel their house. But they also took a more profound decision. They decided that they could no longer afford to have a second child. Now, they will live with the consequences of that for the rest of their lives. That is the price that they paid. And I'm not prepared to let a Labour government ever inflict that pain on working people. Ever.
Well, there we have it. The leader of the Labour Party, and if you believe the polls, the next Prime Minister, talking a bit about his childhood, but also his values, growing up in the south of England, picking up stones as his first job, and playing football until the cows came home, literally.
And very much emphasising the messages he always does. He is about working people, working class people. He actually used the phrase working people 9 times in that speech. Now, we're working people.
Yeah.
Rishi Sunak is a working person. I'm not sure what he actually means by that, but he keeps using that phrase to hammer home the point that he is one of us. He understands what we're going through.
It's a bit like astrology, isn't it? Where you sort of try and say the most vague thing to fit anyone's star sign. You say working people, everyone thinks of themselves as a working
exactly.
person, unless you're the king.
I mean, Tom, I know Labour don't have to give us any policies because, you know, they're probably going to win in any case. So they can be vague about things. They don't. All they've got to say is the Tories are not doing very well. This is time immemorial of elections. But there was a lot of rhetoric there, not a lot of detail about what's actually going to happen.
But do you know what's quite interesting here? Red and white. Red and white. He spoke about Englishness at the start of this speech. That's something you don't hear a lot from the Labour Party about. It's something that the Tories have really captured. But also, of course, England, the football team, will be playing the Euros quarter-final just the day after the election, if we get through to the quarter-final, that is. I think a sense of Englishness will be a huge, huge theme of this general election.
Depends how many votes he wants to get in Scotland.
That's true. That's very true. And we're just going to dip back into Keir Starmer, where we're expecting him to talk about security.
But in a way, this desperation tells another story. Elections are about more than individual changes and policies, but about values, temperament, character. And a bigger question, whose side are you on? Who do you hold in your mind's eye when you're making decisions? Now, everything I have fought for has been shaped by my life. Every change I've made to this party has been about a cause. The answer to that question, the only answer, the working people of this country delivering on their aspirations, earning their respect, serving their interests. And I know that people are looking at this election, looking at me personally. So I make this promise. I will fight for you. I took this Labour Party 4.5 years ago, and I changed it into the party you see today. Now, I was criticised for some of the changes I made. Change is always like that. Always people who say, don't do it, you're going too fast. But wherever I saw a fork in the road, at the Crown Prosecution Service, in my work in Northern Ireland, and especially here in the Labour Party, it always comes back to this. The golden thread. Country first, party second, I will fight for you. Because you cannot restore trust and respect with the politics of protest. You cannot move our country forward with gimmicks and gestures. And you cannot truly serve the country if you only do what is convenient. That is why I changed the Labour Party. That is how we serve the British people. I see no fight in the Prime Minister, no appetite to do the same for his party. They will not change. Seriously, whenever he is confronted by factions in his party, people who are miles away from serving the values of the British people, he caves in every time. A party-first weakness at the heart of his leadership. Rwanda is the perfect example. He never believed in it. He knew it wouldn't work. He said that. He tried to stop it when he was Chancellor. But he was too weak to stand up to his party. He caved in. And now he's gone through and it's cost £600 million. And now he's called an election before it can be tested. Weakness upon weakness. On Saturday I was in Stafford and I was with a couple. Actually, we went into their kitchen to have a cup of tea. One of them was a paramedic and her wife worked in a jewellery shop. They've got 2 children. They bought their house where we had our cup of tea 5 years ago. And they've been on a fixed-rate mortgage ever since. And they could afford it. But then they've come off it and they've searched for the best next deal. And the best next deal is hundreds of pounds a month more. Hundreds of pounds a month more. And they're struggling. How do you think they feel when the Prime Minister says, we've turned a corner? How do you think they feel when they see the people who did that to their mortgages swanning around in the House of Lords because Sunak was too weak to stand up to them? Service isn't just a word. It requires action. You have to roll up your sleeves and change things for the better. I have changed this Labour Party, dragged it back to service, and I will do exactly the same for Westminster. That is the choice at this election. Service or self-interest. Stability or chaos. A Labour Party that has changed or a Tory party that has run away from the mainstream. The choice is yours. You can stop the chaos. You can turn the page. You can join with us, and together we can rebuild our country. Thank you so much. Thank you.